All of you out there obsessed with your eschatology, trying to figure out when he's coming, you're in darkness. Some percentage, not like total, but I mean, there's a part of you that is still in darkness. He said, no. He says, you are not in darkness so that this day should overtake you as a thief. In other words, you have figured out that if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you'll be where you're supposed to be. You cannot be successful in this journey if you become complacent. In other words, we have an idiomatic phrase saying, oh, you were asleep at the wheel. I don't mean like literally when someone falls asleep at the wheel, but like when somebody's doing something and they got complacent and they weren't paying good attention and then something went off the rails somehow and went a little sideways and a person goes, what happened? Did you fall asleep at the wheel? Did you get distracted? We're not watching for him. We're watching ourselves in the context of him. Ooh, think about that. See, people will read that and say, but we should watch and be sober, like we're looking and we're watching. No, look, don't be all focused on trying to find him coming. Find him in you. Find him in your life. Find him in your walk, and then you will be sober. We're also going to decide to live our lives with two ideas in our head clear. One is you need to be living like he's coming tomorrow. He's not, but you need to be living like he's coming tomorrow. But you need to be planning like it might not even be your generation. Because every generation before that didn't plan like it wasn't going to be them ended up in all kinds of problems. And by the way, you know, this whole predestination thing, he knows what you will do, he knows what you can do, but he still calls you so others can also witness it. He called you because you could, not only because you would. Otherwise, it wouldn't be wheat and tares. Otherwise, it wouldn't be people that would, it says, those who stay in me and those who don't stay in me in John 15, Yeshua talks about. Okay? Well, what about how are the ones that don't stay in him? They must have been in him to begin with, but they kind of, it's like being in his hand and climbing out. He says, those that are in my hands, right? I've not lost a one. Unless they get out on their own. He says, but I haven't done anything to lose them. So realize that when the Father calls and draws, he drew you because you could, not because you would. He says, there are those who labor among you, and they are also in authority in the vertical structure over you. But that doesn't make them better or greater. Yeshua makes it clear, the greater is the greater servant. So they're laborers who are serving you, and as part of that serving, though, they may need to admonish you. And we've lost quite a few people from this ministry because they did not enjoy the admonishment. Nobody enjoys it. I mean, it says so in Scripture, that nobody likes the chastisement, nobody likes the correction, but if you would submit to it, it brings the peaceable fruit. That's just like this helmet we're talking about here. It's not just supposed to keep something in, it's supposed to keep stuff out. Same thing with the breastplate. It's supposed to keep stuff in, but it's also to keep stuff out. When you're in a battle and someone, basically we think about armor with like swords and that kind of things, knives, swords, arrows, it's supposed to be able to maybe bounce off of a breastplate, not puncture the breastplate. So are you doing what you need to do to make sure that you have protective gear on to keep stuff out of your mind and out of your heart that don't belong there? Or somebody who needs a fire lit under them. Isn't that a picture that's harsh? Think of it. You're sitting around and I go over to your chair and I put a fire under it. But we use it as an idiomatic sort of metaphor, right? I'm going to light a fire under you. Well, sometimes it's going to take some strength of voice and a little bit of what sounds like harshness to like get you into that place where you wake up. But instead we crawl into a little fetal position, stick our thumb in our mouth, and we whine about it. Those who don't, though, get the peaceful fruit of walking in the right direction and waking up and moving forward. You know, even in the Gospels, each of the Gospels at times are giving a slightly different perspective of the same event that they all experience, but you're getting a slightly different understanding or the part that really stood out to the person writing. Because some of the things that the Gospels talk about, 2 or 3 or 4 of them will talk about the same event, but they describe it slightly different. Not different like conflicting, but focused on maybe different aspects of it. Because that's where they were coming from. That's what impacted them more about what they saw, what they experienced. Now notice how the order of what Paul is saying here. He's saying, know them, step 1. Know who? Those who are among you and over you and admonishing you, and then make sure you're holding them in the highest regard. He didn't say hold them in the highest regard, and then they're going to do these other things. He said, these are people you must get to know. They should be over you, and they should be admonishing you. And in the picture and context of all that, hold them in the highest regard in love because of their work.